Passengers from South Korea to Wuhan need to show their corona test negative certificate 72 hours before boarding. But passengers from Wuhan to South Korea only need to check their temperature without the corona test negative certificate. On last day, China officially said we have won the war against corona, and this is for solving the problem about China's serious international isolation and advertising China's measures were great. And there is a country who helped China as they wanted. It's South Korea. South Korea is the first country in the world to open the direct flight to Wuhan. According to foreign media, Bangkok, Hanoi, Singapore, and Tokyo are currently considering resuming the flight to Wuhan. But in this situation, Korean's airline has started the flight for the first time on September 16. T-Way Airline has officially announced that, due to business demands and problems with Korean residents, Incheon and Wuhan flight will be operated once in a week in the future. When 60 passengers arrived at Incheon International Airport on September 16, Chinese authorities promoted passengers arriving in Korea and gave a huge meaning. It proved the success of quarantine in Wuhan and China. The international community's trust and image toward China have finally been restored. Regarding to the permission to fly to Wuhan, the Korean CDC said China has a lower patient number than South Korea and has no increase sign. But on September 8, South Korea has already announced to the world that 5 passengers from China have been infected, and also proved that China's declaration of official closure of the C-19 was a lie. Like this, even though South Korea experienced China's lie firsthand, South Korea government has resumed the flight to Wuhan first in the world. And now, every Koreans are very angry about this decision. Never trust the Communist Party of China. What happened to this government? Why did they open the flight to Wuhan? Ban all the CCP members, you devils. It seems like South Korea is a colony of China. But there was another problem which you can't never believe. Passengers from South Korea to Wuhan need to show their corona test negative certificate 72 hours before boarding. But passengers from Wuhan to South Korea only need to check their temperature without the corona test negative certificate. This is because the South Korean government excluded China from the list of strengthening quarantine country. About this, a government official said, because the Korea quarantine authorities has determined that China is a place where quarantine is secured, this friendly relationship between Korea and China continues. South Korea is showing a positive response about Chinese vaccine. On September 15, Kwon Jun-wook, deputy director of the Central Anti-Disaster Headquarters, said, there are 9 companies where testing phase 3 clinical vaccines, and 4 of them made from China. About vaccine, safety is the most important part, so we will make decisions based on scientific evidence rather than specific countries and pharmaceutical companies. Normally, phase 3 clinical test of a vaccine takes more than years, but the Chinese vaccine has completed everything within few months, and their side effects are not being reported properly. And on the same day, Ministry of Health and Welfare, Lee Min-taek said, it is known that the side effects of the vaccine from the Sinopharm were very low and the benefits were good. And later, if the vaccine turns out as a reliable and good one, we will import the vaccine. The People's Daily, the official newspaper of the CCP, reported on the last 20 that hundreds of thousands of people have already been vaccinated with 2 types of the vaccines which are being developed by Sinopharm. In particular, they pointed out that among tens of thousands of people who have been sent to other countries after vaccine, it is reported that there was not a single infected or side effect case so far. I will explain again. On September 8, it was officially announced that 5 infected people came from China and 3 were Chinese and 2 were Korean. And exactly 4 days later, on September 12, China announced that not even 1 out of the tens of thousands of people had been infected after the vaccination. And the South Korean government believed the announcement from the CCP and said, we will choose a vaccine based on the scientific evidence. On September 2nd, a Chinese current affairs critic, Shunan Kanshai, had a live broadcast of Chinese health information media, Baden Gen 1. And from there, he explained that he got vaccinated twice on July 22 and August 24. After the first inoculation, I felt a little nauseous. The feeling after the second inoculation was stronger. After the inoculation, I felt light dizziness on my way to home, and I felt like I was driving like a drunken with alcohol. So I stopped my car in a safe place, took a nap for a while, and woke up, and I felt better. This live broadcast also shared the experiences of other citizens who had a vaccine. After a week of inoculation, I felt my heart beating was unstable. In response, Beijing Genomics Institute scientist Chen Wanjun said, the vaccine is very unlikely to cause serious side effects. Most of them are due to psychological factors. Also, a former chief scientist of CDC, Zhang Wang, said, there is no need to worry about the minor side effects such as pain around your eyes and mild fever after vaccination. Many experts in China have already finished vaccinating. They were even inoculated during phase 1 clinical trial. We are confident in the safety of the Chinese vaccine. In the meantime, Chinese vaccine experts including Zheng Guang criticized Russia and stressing the stability, productivity, and economic benefits of Chinese vaccines. Russia made the world's first vaccine approval in the phase 2 without phase 3 clinical trial. The effect of these vaccines is not certain. Russia made a decision out of political considerations, not from a healthcare standpoint. The Chinese vaccine is expected to cost about $150 for 2 doses, but it will be much cheaper than it actually is. The total production capacity is at least 500 million to 600 million. But contrary to what Chinese vaccine experts said, there was a problem in the Sinopharm vaccine. Neutralized antibody is more powerful than a simple antibody. A neutralized antibody that combines with a virus for neutralizing, and it is like a shield against the infection. Therefore, the presence of neutralized antibodies is very important because it means that it can prevent reinfections. But Sinopharm has only mentioned a high level of neutralizing antibodies after their clinical trial on the 14th and 21st, but has not given exact figures and ratios. This woman's name is Chen Wei, and she received the medal from the Xi Jinping. And the CanSino vaccine developed by Chen Wei, director of the Chinese Academy of Military Sciences, is even more serious. In a Lancet paper on last June, 70–80% of the people who got the vaccine has abnormalities such as a headache and fever. And even some scientists worry that CanSino vaccine could increase the chance of getting HIV, because CanSino vaccine is a modified form of adenovirus type 5. That's why on 2015, through studies, some experts including US infectious disease expert Dr. Fauci said, HIV incident should be monitored during and after trials of all 85 based vaccine in at-risk populations. In the reason, many companies have chosen another mechanism not from 85. Although China has a population of about 1.4 billion, they are conducting phase 3 clinical trials in Middle East, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, because Chinese people don't believe the vaccines from China. One of the most representative examples of Chinese people not believing in Chinese vaccine is the fake DPT vaccine incident in 2018. The DPT vaccine used the immune system to prevent infections of diseases such as diphtheria and tetanus. In 2018, 652,000 vaccines which Chinese babies received were found to be defective, and more than 480,000 children were vaccinated. The CCP brought the company's management to justice and delisted the company, but did not even count cases of victims who received the fake vaccines. Even they shut down SNS account with speaking about the vaccine and blocked the internet search. Also, complaints from parents were all ignored. Because of this precedent, Chinese people are reluctant to get vaccine developed by China's state-owned company. Under these circumstances, South Korea's positive judgment on Chinese vaccine or import that vaccines will greatly helpful for them. However, in this cooperative relationship between South Korea and China, there was a big incident in southern China. On September 12, Chinese authorities blocked the city of Luili in Yunnan province because 2 Myanmar people were confirmed to have been infected, and they say the reason was aimed at preventing the spread of the virus. However, compared to the size of the infection, it shows much low-level responses, such as a whole city blockade. So people suspect that actual infection is more serious than their announcement. In fact, 200 medical staff have already been dispatched to the Luili city, and as they did in the Wuhan, building a large temporary hospital with more than 1,000 beds has been released. Netizens began to suspect that CCP is covering up again. The government says there are only 2 patients, but why they build such a big hospital? It seems like the virus has spread a long time ago. In the meantime, in China, there was another huge accident. Last year, a vaccine production plant in Lanzhou City used a non-sterilized disinfectant, and that makes about 3,000 people were infected with brucella. Once again, China's plan to provide vaccine to the world has proven to be untrustable. Since the beginning of this year, China has been steadily trying to create this image with mask diplomacy. The China is helping the world, and also has actually sent a lot of the quarantine goods around the world. However, China has been criticized around the world for being a low quality of mask and goods, and that China is trying to give vaccines around the world, and to you. Today's video was very sad for me as Korean. Thanks for watching. Be safe.